Hi there, thank you for joining me for this recap of My 600-Pound Life, Season 12, Episode 4. If you're a fan of the show, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and also let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comments. So in this episode, we meet Abi Ruiz. He's 37 years old, currently living in Austin, Texas, and his weight is unknown. We're told that he has been lying in a hospital bed for the last 7 years. And he says the only thing that keeps him motivated is his wife, Brenda. So we see where he's in his bed in the living room. And, at the beginning of the episode, we see where he has to take a shower. And he says that, not really a shower, but bathe or wash up, or the closest thing to a shower, I guess, that he can do because he's completely immobile. And he says it's very painful. He says that he washes where he can and then in the front, and then Brenda has to wash the other parts. Because he's been in the bed so long, he has developed a lot of bed sores. He has lymphedema. He's been bedridden for a very long time. And he says that he was in a car accident, and so because of that, he had lost feeling in his chest, from his chest down. And he was in the hospital for a while, but eventually he was able to move his legs. But now that I'm talking about this, I guess he never fully gained mobility in his legs. He's just been in the bed for so long. I don't know if he tried to walk after the accident. I guess he didn't get into that. But he has been just in the bed this whole time. So as you can imagine, he has a lot of issues. So we're told that he was born and raised in Puerto Rico. And he talks about the diet growing up because, they had a lot of unhealthy food. It's good food, no doubt. He mentioned fried this and all this yummy stuff that, the Caribbean offers. But because he was active, he was able to burn it off. So he wasn't never really overweight as a child. He was normal. But he says that when he quit athletics, he noticed that he started to get bigger and he just kept on gaining weight. So then when he went off to college, he went to university in the U.S. Did he say Florida or did he say Michigan? Somewhere in the U.S. And so that's when he really started to eat because he was at home. He was on his own. He could eat whatever he wants. And he mentioned there being a wing place across the street from where he was staying. And so he would just go all out. He mentions also that he graduated with honors. So he was very excited and proud about that. And after he graduated from university, he moved back to Puerto Rico. He said that when he was working after college, I think he mentioned that he was working in theater, and he had a lot of activity doing that job. So he ended up losing, 100 pounds. So he talks about his wife, Brenda, how they met. They met on a site for larger people. And he says that he was on his way to Brenda's house. I think he said it was for her birthday. And he was planning on proposing to her, but he got into an accident. I don't know if the proposal was supposed to happen that very day, but I know he had a ring where he was planning to propose to her around that time that he was in the accident. So when he had the accident, he said that he didn't have any broken bones, but because of whiplash, he sustained damage to his spinal cord. So he was in the hospital for a while. The doctors didn't think that he would have been able to walk again. So this is, what had caused him to pretty much gain so much weight. He was larger before, but I don't think it was to this extent. So after he got out of the hospital, after being in the accident, he was staying with his parents, at his parents' house because he needed help. And then, his wife, Brenda, says she would spend days on end at the parents' house so she could take care of him, help him clean up and all that. And Brenda says that she didn't fall in love with his body, it was his soul, and that she knew that she would always be there for him. And so when he wanted to marry her in the state that he was in, of course, she married him. And we see in the wedding photos that he got married while he was in a wheelchair, and he still didn't look that big around the time that they got married. But anyway, he says that when he was in Puerto Rico, after they got married, he went through the hurricane. Was it Hurricane Maria? is it the massive hurricane that went through Puerto Rico a few years ago. And he said that, around that time, they were out of power for like almost 60 days. And so when a friend saw him, he was like, you can't really stay here in this condition. So they started fundraising for him, and there's a foundation that helped him to get out of Puerto Rico. So he was able to move to mainland U.S. to be near his sister in Texas. He mentioned that, his father had died, and, he didn't really get to properly say goodbye, but he felt like it was a blessing because, of the fact that a year after his father died, the hurricane came through, and he felt like, his father would have died if he had been alive because of the conditions surrounding the hurricane and the aftermath of all that. So, he's feeling, I guess, some kind of sadness around that. Abi is currently working with some accommodation. I think he's doing some customer service function, and Brenda is working in auto financing, which I was just impressed that, with him being, it seems like he's probably one of the largest person on 600 Pound Life. I think he's the only one that I've seen that has worked, and he is in his hospital bed, and he's able to find a way to work. So that was very impressive. So kudos to him for that. Then we see Brenda going grocery shopping. She calls from the grocery store to ask what he wants. He's wanting cookies, bread, tortillas, all while saying that he wants to lose weight to get the surgery, which I thought was funny how they probably edited that, because if you're talking about losing weight, why would you want to get all the most unhealthy stuff that there is? So he says he has to lose weight in order to be able to walk again, because his muscles have atrophied, and so he can't really move much. And he says that, they eat unhealthily because the healthy stuff is more expensive, and also between him working, his wife working, they don't really have a lot of time to do meal preparation. So the bad food choices are more convenient. So that's kind of where it's at as far as, his eating habits. So we see where his wife made lunch, and it looks like it was like 10 sandwiches. A whole batch of sandwiches. She brought him a basin of queso. There's chips. He's having soda. He says lunch is the best part of his day because Brenda comes home for lunch and they get to relax and eat and play video games. So, yeah, this is not really a good start considering that he was saying that he wanted to lose weight. This diet is not conducive to losing weight. But anyway, we see where his sister Miriam comes over. He says that he only sees her when she comes over to help Brenda to take care of his sores, to move him, to clean him, which I don't know why he said that. They seem to, I don't know, do they not have a good relationship? But either way, she's there for him. So that's the most important part. So he says the worst, when she comes over and they have to move him, it's the worst part of his day because it's so painful. And he says he doesn't want to complain, but it hurts so much when they have to move him. We see where he's screaming a lot when this has to go on. And, they tried to blur the camera, but you see that he has like some horrible lumpy, I don't know if it's the bed sores, but it almost looks like charcoal. The texture of the skin, because he's been laying so long, is just insane. I just felt so bad for him. Just being in the hospital for like, having a baby, your muscles get so tired and just, you just get so uncomfortable. I cannot imagine being in a hospital bed all this time. So anyway, month 1, we see where he has a video call with Dr. Now, and Dr. Now is asking him questions, you're not walking, so explain what happened. He tells about, the accident. He asks about, if he has any sensation in his legs. Dr. Now asks what's going on, why he hasn't been able to lose weight. Really, Dr. Now. He says that he's been in bed because he's been in bed for this whole time and hasn't been doing anything. Dr. Now tells him that has nothing to do with that. It's your diet. And so Dr. Now asks, who the culprit's been, who's bringing him this stuff that he's eating, and also asks him if he's the one who's asking for it. So Abi admits that he overeats, And in the conversation, Dr. Now asked the last time he's been to a doctor. He hasn't been in like 3 years. He currently cannot bend his knees and he cannot move his toes. Dr. Now tells him that the longer that he's in the bed, the likelihood that for him to be able to walk again is going to diminish significantly. So Dr. Now says he's going to get him to start physical therapy to get some strength in his legs. And he tells him that, everything starts with you. You need to change your eating habits, do the exercise. So Abi is really excited to get his life back on track. And he says he's willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen. So month 2, Abi says he's been doing the diet since speaking to Dr. Now. And he's been doing his physical therapy. He says sometimes he has to stop with his PT because it's so much pain for him. And we see his physical therapy guy, Jason, who comes twice a week. Jason and his curls. He seems like a really nice guy, very empathetic, which I feel like is necessary in that kind of role. So we get to see his PT session, and Abi says he's feeling like he's making some progress in his legs. Jason says it will take a lot of work for him to get to the point to be able to sit up. But Abi said he enjoyed the workout with his PT guy. He has a little machine thingy that he used to work his arms and the activities that they do. So he seemed very motivated to be able to lose the weight. Month 3, we see Dr. Now casually dressed in his little vehicle driving to go see Abi. And this is a change. I'm like, look, you used to seeing Dr. Now in his coat, but today he's driving. He didn't have his coat on. I'm like, oh, he's looking kind of spiffy. Look at you. So he's going to go to assess the situation with Abi and to talk to the physical therapist to come up with a plan. So Abi tells Dr. Now that he's really tired of eating salads, and him and his wife are going to looking into some alternatives, which I'm surprised that Dr. Now didn't snap at this, because you know how he hates when people talk about trying to do alternative things. But when Dr. Now asks about what he has been eating, he says he's only been having salads and drinking water. And Dr. Now asks how the exercises have been going. And then he moves on to do like an examination of him. Abi cannot straighten out his legs. Dr. Now asks him if he can straighten out his legs, and he couldn't. And he says he lost strength in his legs because he hasn't been able to use them. And Dr. Now tells him that he has all day to exercise his legs and to get them moving. So, shady Dr. Now, but it is true. While in the bed, he could have avoided his muscles, his joints freezing up the way they are. And then he also has some infections on his skin, on his hip, that is Dr. Now says is oozing, that needs to get under control. He has so much stuff going on. Dr. Now says he wants him to be able to put his feet on the ground here shortly. I think he says in the next 30 or 60 days. And so the physical therapist says, he'll work on him being able to at least sit at the edge of the bed during the next 60 days. And Dr. Now reminds him that everything is up to him. He needs to only eat protein, no carbs. And we see where when the PT guy came, I noticed that he reached across Dr. Now to shake Abi's hand, which I thought was really, really cool. He's treating him like a man regardless of the situation that he's in. So that was really nice, a little gesture that he didn't necessarily have to do. He could have stood there and waved, and he didn't. So Dr. Now says Abi is in a worse situation than he thought. This is his confessional after doing the initial examination. He also goes on to say how his hygiene is poor because of the infections, and he could tell from the smell of the place. He has infections, he has frozen joints, and he says that Abi needs to lose weight in order to increase his mobility. But regardless, Abi is grateful that Dr. Now took the time out to come see him in person. So month 4, we see Brenda helping Abi to do his exercises. She's really calm and patient with him. She just has such a calm demeanor. And he says that he's really pushing himself. He said he pushed himself too hard, and so he had hurt his knee, so he had to rest on doing his leg exercises for about a week. But he's still following the diet and doing his exercises. He says that he's cut back on his portions, and he's been feeling hungry a lot. Month 5, we see he has another video call with Dr. Now to talk about his progress and updates and all that. Abi feels like he's making more progress, and he's hoping that Dr. Now will have specific next steps for him. He gives Dr. Now an update on what he's been doing. He's been doing his exercises, which he says will become easier. Dr. Now asks him if he's tried to sit up, and he says no. And Dr. Now says, why? Dr. Now, he says he doesn't trust the bed. The rails are kind of flimsy because they're shaking. He doesn't want to hurt himself. But he does tell Dr. Now that he's been following the diet, and Dr. Now asks what he's been eating. Dr. Now asks him to cut back on his portions. He's been eating, like, for example, 3 eggs for breakfast. Dr. Now says he needs to cut it back to 2. I'm like, oh gosh, poor guy. He's been already feeling hungry already, and Dr. Now is telling him to cut back. So he's going to really feel hunger now. So Abi is saying that he needs some structure or a goal. He only has tasks, and he feels like he needs a goal to work towards. So it's coming off as though he's criticizing Dr. Now's method. But realistically, there's really no way to give him a goal because he can't be weighed, he can't move. So how do you have a measurement or a goal to give him? But I get it though. He wants to have some kind of definitive measure of his progress or something to motivate him, which kind of can't happen right now. So Dr. Now has arranged for Abi to go to the hospital. We're told that Brenda cannot go with him because she has to work. Abi's nervous, but he knows it's for the best. And so when it's time to go to the hospital, it was a very painful exercise for him. And you could see, Brenda just crying, just watching this all go down, because every time he has to move, it's very painful with all these sores and infections and joint pain that he has. But she's happy that he's finally going to be able to get the help that he needs. And the pain didn't really end there from moving him from the bed and to be able to get him to the ambulance. During the ride to the hospital, there's a lot of, crying or painful noises, because every bump in the road, it seems like he's feeling it and it hurts. So, they finally make it to the hospital. Dr. Now has to run some tests, and he will get his weight. And while he's in the hospital, he'll be on a controlled diet. And Dr. Now will also bring in specialists to see and assess him. And Dr. Now feels like he'll probably need some more operations in order for him to be able to walk again. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So month 6, Abi has been in the hospital. He's been working hard. He says he's willing to do whatever it takes. So Dr. Now does his weight, and when he did his initial weight, he was 728 pounds when he first got to the hospital. So now in month 6, when Dr. Now did his weight, he's down to 605. Dr. Now says he's constantly complaining that he doesn't have enough to eat, but he's happy that there's nobody there to sneak him food while he's in the hospital. Dr. Now does not care. I don't care if you have enough to eat. This is the diet. So we see where the nurses come in to clean him, and Dr. Now says that he has a lot of work that he needs to do. And he says that being in the hospital, he's going to have better care than he was at home, because at home he was he was going to the bathroom in the bed, and he was laying in whatever it was. I'm thinking it's probably pee. And so that has caused a lot of the problems, in addition to the fact that his wife hasn't been able to properly clean him. So now in the hospital, he's going to be able to get proper care as far as that goes. Now, Dr. Now goes on to say that he's constantly whining about missing his wife, and, he's not going home right now. So if he goes home, it's just going to undo everything that they've done. So as much as he misses his wife, he's not going home. So in month 7, we see Abi. He's in the bed at the hospital doing homework. It looks like he's doing some multiple choice thingy on the paper. But I guess the exercise or the homework that he has from Dr. Now is for him to better understand nutrition. He says he's been doing better with his PT, and he's been able to move his legs, but he still can't straighten them out. So Dr. Now says he's lost another 80 pounds, and so the next step is for him to have his surgery. He says normally he would send people home at this point to see how they do, but it really wouldn't be beneficial for him to go home right now. So he's going to work on doing more tests, and then they can move forward with the surgery. So when he mentioned this to Abi, Abby's face just lit up. It's like a huge megawatt bulb because he's been working so hard to get to the point to be able to get the surgery. And so when Dr. Now finally is going to approve it, he just couldn't believe it. He was so shocked. And I have to admit, I got choked up too. When Dr. Now left the room and he started to cry, like, oh my goodness, like I was tearing up too. It was just heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, I guess, and just finally he's going to get this thing that he's been working towards. So he's been working hard, so I was happy for him when we got to this point. Now, the next day we see where he's going to have his surgery, and eventually the plan Dr. Now has for him is for him to have arthritic surgery. Abby's ecstatic to have the surgery, but he's a little sad that Brenda won't be there. He also said he called and told his mom about the surgery. And so although they couldn't be there physically, he can feel them spiritually. And they did the surgery. It went well, but Dr. Now said it was very challenging because of his weight and because of the fact that, his joints are, frozen, and the way he has to be on the table, it's like a bit abnormal. So the surgery went well. Abby will have to stay in the hospital a little bit longer. Because Dr. Now wants to see how everything goes before he sends him home. So after the surgery, Abby's amazed at how quickly he gets full these days. It's just a different feeling for him. And we see Dr. Now coming to visit, and we're told that it's been a week and a half since the surgery. So Dr. Now says he's going to bring in an orthopedic specialist to examine him. Typically they'll do an MRI of the joints and to see how things go, but because of how his joints are frozen, it wouldn't fit in an MRI machine. So the guy has to do like a physical assessment. And when they show his legs and the joints, it's just, it's almost as if where the upper leg meets the lower leg is kind of fusing together. There's some stuff at the joint. I don't know if it's because it hasn't been cleaned or I don't know. But it was just, yeah. So they mentioned potentially the bones having to be broken surgically, but they're not at that step now. The orthopedic specialist mentioned that he should continue to lose weight and see how his mobility goes. So in the short term, they want him to be able to walk, but they'll reassess and see if he really needs the surgery. And after the surgery, we see where his family came to visit. His mom came from Puerto Rico, and we see where his sister Miriam and her daughters came to visit. So Dr. Now comes in on the family visit, like, who are these people? What's going on? And then gives an update. It's been 2 weeks since the surgery, and he's down to 489 pounds. And they cannot move forward with the surgery right now. The orthopedic surgeon says he needs to get down to 350 before he could try to put any weight on his legs. So they have to continue with the weight loss before they can do anything else. So Dr. Now says the big challenge will be for when he goes home, because there's been nobody there to make sure he's, one, following the diet, and two, doing his exercises like he should to be able to move forward on the path that he needs to in order to be able to walk again. So in month 8, it's time for Abi to go home. He'll be doing PT 3 times a week, and he will need to lose 20 pounds per month. Dr. Now told him that he will need to come back and visit in 3 months, so he's expecting 60 pounds in weight loss. So on the day that Abby's going home, he weighs 477 pounds. So far he has lost 250 pounds, and he will need another 150 or so to be able to have those surgeries that he needs on his legs. So Dr. Now says Abi has made some progress with his legs, but doesn't feel like Abby's pushing himself enough in his PT sessions. He goes on to say that Abi has been in a controlled environment for 3 months, and he can't stay in there forever. So he needs to work on his goal of losing the weight. And if he doesn't do that, then a lot of valuable resources would have been wasted on him, basically. So Abby says, sometimes he gets discouraged. Sometimes he feel like he'll never get on his feet again, but he knows he has to keep going. He knows the more weight he loses, the easier it'll be for him. So on month 11, we see Abby's back to see Dr. Now for his 3-month checkup. He says he has stuck to his diet and exercise. And Abby says that his PT has been going well. When he weighs in this time, we're told he should be at 417. He weighs in at 421. So not quite the 60 pounds, but it's very, very close. Dr. Now says that he needs to pick it up a bit, but he's happy with the progress. So Abby will now need to lose another 70 pounds before he can have orthopedic surgery. And while he's in the hospital, Dr. Now is doing some more tests on him and making sure that there's nothing concerning that's happened since the surgery. And then he'll be able to go back the following day. So after this visit, Dr. Now says this is the first time that he has had proof that Abby is taking things seriously. Really, Dr. Now, what has the man been doing this whole time? He's been working hard. Come on now. Granted, he did complain a lot, but he was working hard. Dr. Now, give him some credit. So month 12, Abby is down to 403 pounds, and he's at home. We see he has a new PT, Patrick. They're working on being able to swing his legs off the bed. Abby says he has hope now, and he knows he's going to be able to do it. He cannot wait to be able to walk again. And so this is how the episode ends, him doing his PT and then the therapist leaving. So yeah, this has been a huge journey for Abby. It's just been such an interesting episode. I wish that we could have seen the moment that he stood up, or maybe when he got his orthopedic surgery. But we know, yeah, it's just a long, long process for him based on his condition. But I say the episode is interesting because I don't think we've seen in the past, or I haven't seen an episode where we see the impact of obesity on the actual bones. Yes, people have said in the past how they have joint pain and how it hurts and all of that, but just see how his legs are just frozen, is just insane. So he did a great job, and he's moving in the right direction. So hopefully by this time he's been able to get his surgery. I haven't looked online to see where he's at these days. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on the episode. Like, comment, and subscribe.